Welcome to the Bushwick Bears Petty Crime Review.
Yo, everybody, we got very funny comedian in front of the show, Sameer Naseem.
Sameer's been making prank calls since he was a wee baby. And it's just he was an Irish wee baby.
Like, what was that accent?
I don't know.
It's like an Irish nutty professor.
It was, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Anyways, if you love this episode, see Sameer. He's going to be hanging with Jericho at the Bushwick Bears on the 30th. I don't know when this episode comes out, but come to the Bushwick Bears every Wednesday, 9 o'clock at the Stand in Union Square, New York City, baby.
When I was a little shorty, and you run around. I know, I bugged my head. I said, no, Ma, I bugged my head. And she said, Flipmo's the greatest.
Are those song lyrics or an episode or something?
It was like the sketch before the song. It was like the, remember in the 90s, all the rap CDs had sketches?
Yeah.
skits.
Ludacris had the
That's
best
what a
ones.
skit
Yeah.
is.
That's a skit, yeah.
That's
Remember
an
when somebody
actual
says to
skit.
you, they're like, hey, do a skit. You want a skit? You listen to a Snoop Dogg album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's mad skits.
When I was shorty, I was playing in the yard. I bugged my head. That song is all. Give me some more.
Yeah, give us a moment.
Oh, okay.
Busta Rhymes lives.
I didn't know there
in-
was a skit
Do you know
there.
Aaron Camino Smith?
I know Aaron, yeah.
Yeah. Busta Rhymes lives in the penthouse of his building.
Oh wow. See, he lives in
Whoa.
Dumbo, right?
He lives in Dumbo, yeah.
The only reason I know is because my roommate worked in the restaurant across the street, and Busta Rhymes would come and get like to-go food like once a week.
Yeah.
So I know exactly where that is. That's
Yeah.
funny.
Dude, this is such a terrible thing with my neck for a podcast. I'm just going to be like doing shoulders.
You know what? Don't even look
That's
at us.
like
just
funny.
look straight at the
Yeah.
camera the whole
I know.
time.
I
I'm
won't
going to
say
get a
anything-
mirror so I can look at Derek through that and then see you guys.
Well,
in
like
it.
usual, I won't say anything interesting. So you don't have to like turn around and be like.
Every once in a
whatever.
while, you say something racist that's funny. So
I do not. I make a joke. And if you look
About
at
the
it,
topic of racism.
and if you look at it out of context, like a child or an idiot, then sure, it's racist. Sure. I mean, yeah.
You
Boris
take
is
that
like-
back.
one of the funniest things ever. I have a dear friend, and I went to the dentist today, so I want to apologize. My mouth is like farting because it's half numb.
Yeah.
One of my best friends, they're very well educated family. They all went to school. They're very liberal, woke people. One time, I had an A shirt on, right? An A shirt, and I called it. I mean, mind you, I was a teenager.
White.
Oakland.
Yeah,
yeah.
white. No,
like
like Marshall Mathers.
Like a wife beater.
Okay, yeah.
So I had an A shirt on, and we referred to it as a wife beater.
Yeah.
Right, because
And she
that's
goes-
what everybody calls it.
Yeah,
Everyone
she
calls
goes, you don't call it that.
I
You
didn't
can't
even
call
know
it
what the
that.
fuck you were talking about with this
I
A-shirt
know, right?
business.
But she's like, you can't call it a wife beater. And we're like, yeah, you're right. That is terrible, and it isn't something that we should call it. What do you call them? And she goes, Dagos.
which is like so much
And
worse.
I was like, that's
an actual slur.
That's an actual slur, yeah.
And she was like, what? Oh, I guess it is. And I was like, what the fuck?
Well, that's lovely that you could connect like that
I know, right?
with your different forms of, I guess, bigotry that you're oblivious to.
Yeah, right.
Or
Exactly.
apathetic to, because it's a fucking shirt. But anyway.
It is a shirt.
It is funny, though, like, people getting upset about it being called a wife beater. And you're like, yeah, but that's what it's called.
Right, and
Right,
there are wife
yeah.
beaters. It's actually, if anything, making fun of what someone who might beat their wife looks like,
Right.
which is like a backwoods dude in a fucking shirt with no sleeves.
It's a slam on the working class.
Exactly.
right?
If
Right, yeah.
anything, if anything, that's what's offensive.
All
to.
those shirts are undershirts for people who have to work for a living.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And for some people, they're overshirts.
I mean, to be
Right,
fair,
yeah. I want to try out an A shirt, see if that actually works.
only shirts.
I was wearing a tie-dyed tank top. That's the other name for him. I was wearing a tie-dyed tank top and rose printed shorts and a hat. I was my summer gear.
Right.
Yeah. I had 2 chains on because I'm rich, and I was wearing those multicolored Merrill shoes I have. that I really like. I bought these new shoes, and they're just like,
oh yeah, those are.
there's
cool.
like 5 colors, and I was like, I don't know. I was talking to my friend, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. They're kind of loud and obnoxious. I thought maybe they were too much, and he just started laughing. I was like, why are you laughing? He was like, you're wearing a tie-dye tank top and rose-printed short shorts, and you're worried about the nice sneakers you have? I was like, that's a fair point.
Sneakers are an investment for sure. Well, just the concept of having to apologize to an adult about something like that. You know what I mean? It's one thing if it's somebody's like, hey, it'd be cool. Like, don't say that anymore. Like, I have a traumatic experience with it or something like that. Of course, I'll respect you or whatever. But it's like, if you have nothing to do with like said subject or whatsoever, and you just overhear a word regardless of context, and you go, no, you're not allowed to say that word no matter what. You're just kind of like, unless it's the N word out of a white person, you like, why should I apologize to another adult for saying something? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
it
makes me think. I was telling a story
we're
about.
a nation of children, is what I'm saying. It's like,
We were telling a story about back in the day at Coney Island. There was like one of attractions. You like pay $1 and you could throw darts at a little person.
oh yeah,
Freak show shit, right?
yeah.
Another one was telling a story about he heard of a story about in like Tennessee they had dwarf bowling,
Dwarf tossing.
dwarf tossing is a thing, and we were telling the story and we weren't saying dwarf.
This was in Jersey, by the way.
Yeah,
The
right.
person
This
that
is
I was
in
talking
Ohio.
about.
That happened in Ohio.
We were. Oh,
too,
I was
yeah.
talking about it with.
Yeah.
We were talking
And
about
somebody
it.
was telling me how they win. How they win.
It was our last episode.
No, it was a buddy of mine in PA, but he was telling me
Yeah.
how in Jersey they did that. And then briefly he said they made it illegal, which actually put a lot of them out of work.
Yeah, a lot
Who
of.
had jobs there, and now I guess he says it's illegal again. I find it hard to believe that
But
would
they're like reversed it.
function
They're
in
like,
today's world.
All right,
Yeah.
they're like, all right, we fucked up. Dwarf tossing is back on the table.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Howard Stern used to have like Hank the Angry Dwarf and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they would advertise dwarf tossing on the show, and like that was a thing that they made money when those Whackpacker people made money off the show.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I
Well,
bet
in
they
the
killed
age
it.
of OnlyFans,
Yeah.
why can't you make money exploiting yourself as a dwarf?
Right.
I mean, if
Right.
you're going to exploit yourself sexually,
Right.
which is considered a pro-feminist thing,
Fuck
why
yeah.
can't you be pro-dwarf
right.
I
and
Why?
exploit your height?
I am a
in that
feminist.
regard?
I love OnlyFans.
That's how you express it.
That's how I do. No, but I remember telling that story about the throwing the dart. I never did it. I never threw darts at the midgets. But I remember telling the story, and it's a really crazy story. But the person I was telling it to, this was a different time than when I was with you. But I was telling the story, and they got mad at me for saying midget, not like the throwing the darts at a human being.
Right. They
Oh,
were
right,
offended.
right, right.
They
They
were
weren't
offended
offended
by.
by the fact that you could pay $1 to throw a dart at a human being. It was that someone referred to them as a midget.
Yeah, it's like somebody in like Germany today being like, and then the Nazis tried to kill a bunch of kikes, and they're like, whoa, you can't say that.
Jews, we're killing
We're
Jews.
killing Jews. Go on.
Go on with your Jew killing.
Man, being a kid in any other time than right now was so rad. Like being a kid in the 80s was sick.
But also, you can make some real bad mistakes.
And
Right,
get-
yeah,
like, get
that'll
away with
last
them.
with you forever.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now, there's certain things that are for the good also, like don't fuck around because people are filming, and like you should learn to like be a socialized human being.
Yeah, but back in the day, you could make mistakes and learn from the old way,
Yeah.
not being filmed. I think my like little nephew's like social media presence, and he writes like sad boy shit, and I'm like, oh, don't put that on the internet,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Oh,
I just
yeah.
could cry on my pillow and listen to the Smiths.
Yeah, you
know?
don't have to
Yeah.
broadcast it.
Yeah.
There's no way to be like, I'm a bummed out teen and like post it on like a website.
Yeah.
You just like word that.
Right.
Yeah, right. Nowadays, I catch the first couple sentences, get the sentiment of what somebody's trying to say, and then I'll give them like a heart. All right, I got.
Keep moving, keep
know-
moving.
It's buried
I
like
know-
the second paragraph.
Here's
You're like,
your
That's
heart."
rad, bro.
No, I'll also look at other people's reactions. If they're mostly hearts, I'm like, okay, it's safe for me to put a heart. There's no like too long didn't read. You're an asshole at the end or whatever.
Right, right.
What do you guys? What do you guys put? Okay, on social media on when someone writes a post about like their partner dying or their dad dying, and then you're like, am I supposed to like this?
Yeah, I put in the
Do I hit a thumbs up?
The care. That's what the care symbol's for.
Oh, there's
now.
a care symbol
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
Oh.
Get with
They
it, old
changed
man.
that.
in the comment section. I say, I'm sorry for your partner's loss, but use promo code Bears for half off tickets on your next show at the stand.
But no,
Well, okay. So real quick, though, because I'm gonna put a button on that one thing though, is like, do you remember after 9/11 when everybody started doing like freedom fries? Not
Yeah.
everybody.
no, yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Everybody had like this real like, there was like a cancel culture of the fucking
The French.
The French, yeah.
yeah, or of like people who were like dissenting, especially like leading up to Iraq and stuff like that, and people would get like chastised. Thank God we didn't have social media like back then, because it would have been like an online hate thing or whatever. We have this whole culture of people who are engaging, like the right engaged in their own level of cancel culture, like back then. And you had to apologize if you said French fries or something
Right,
like
right.
that. And now it's like completely gone like the other way in a sense. And you just see it's this cycle of like perpetual childhood that we're like, I wouldn't even talk to anybody. Like I tried to have a conversation with people who were under 27 like this weekend. I'm like, what is the point? They have no concept of like the world really anymore because like everybody's been like so mollycoddled and all that, But
They need
I thought that was a person named Molly Coddle.
no, so I mean, well, here's the thing: is like I get like kind of not offended by it because, but like just like annoyed by more so because we are a comedy podcast,
Yeah.
and like we are comedians, and like I understand there is a difference between like. I feel like I write when I actually do write. I write smart enough that like I write around whatever like the hot crap is or whatever the things you're not supposed to do. If I still do that and the end result is a 99.9% success rate, if you're in that 0.1% and you still want to be offended by words regardless of context, you're a loser. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're
So what you're
you're
trying
a word,
to
you're
say?
a word I just had to censor myself from saying. And it's like grow up. You know what I mean? Like,
They need to experience 9/11 more intimately, is what you're saying.
Oh my god.
they need to clean their room, make their beds. They need to have like a. I saw this.
They need their stepdad to put cigarette butts out on them when they sleep.
I come from a bussy generation in comparison with like my parents and grandparents and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I just see it like getting. I hate to be like an old man, but I just see it like getting worse than that.
Well, there's a reason for all this though. And it's like this. It's like outrage culture is actually part of the same shit that is like clapter on stage.
Yeah.
So remember when people would roll out during Trump being in office and they'd be like, is it me or is Mr. Trump fucking up? And everyone would start clapping and screaming.
Yeah.
What original thought are they contributing? Nothing. But it's a shortcut to just getting like a
Just-
rise immediately.
Yeah.
Right.
And starting with like clapter. And so the same shit exists with social media. Like outrage culture is think pieces from fucking idiot dickheads that gets fuck tons of likes. And so
And everybody
they do
likes
it
those
for that
likes.
reason. And then
Yeah.
it's inspirational to everyone else. Like, how do I ran out of like ass and tit photos to like thirst trap with. What's my next thirst trap? It's a fucking false like I'm like I mean sure that they may believe that sentiment, but why aren't they doing shit to change it? It's all hollow and empty for the most part.
Yeah.
It's like everyone has a statement to make, but no one actually wants to put in the hard work and effort to fucking change something.
You know
Right.
what's funny
So-
to me, to bring it back to like you were saying before, like if someone's alone in the room and like posting emo shit and that shit'll get like 1,000 likes. And imagine like before the internet, you'd be alone crying in your room in your bed. Now imagine like there's this magical power that allows like a fucking like 2,000 people that you know vaguely of from all directions to like simultaneously put their hand on your shoulder, like like a status might be and just be like, hey man, it's okay, you don't have to cry, everything's gonna be fine. And on the one hand that sounds nice, but on the other hand, that's 1,000 people. That is so creepy that they're all up in your business and you're putting them all up in your business. Like, these aren't your 5 closest friends, these are like 1,000 of the people on the internet that you're loosely connected to, and they're all like, hey, I'm sorry to hear that on your status. I like that. Keep sharing. You know, like, get out of my room.
Yeah.
Finish crying in privacy, and like then deal with the 1,000 people you loosely know.
I post so much less since there's been an influx of thousands of fucking people who just like get on Facebook and just follow comedians or whatever. Which I mean, I'm grateful for, but because Facebook started out as like a way to connect with your friends. Right. So you're just
Facebook
like,
started as a way to rate hot chicks.
It did, yeah.
fair enough, yeah.
It really
But
did.
by the time it made to me a guy who didn't graduate college.
Yeah, I remember. I couldn't be on it at first. Some of my friends were on it, but
Right.
because you had to have a .edu email.
I dated a girl who went
Right.
to Michigan who got me one, and so you became somewhat accustomed to like posting information for people who know you. You know what I mean? And
Right,
then,
right, and
then the
slowly.
circle. Now it's like I have 5,000 followers, friends, or whatever. I don't want these people knowing anything like about me outside of like
Coming to the show. Please come
Right,
come to the
just
show
for
or like
jokes.
this joke. This
June
joke is
30th,
like
the stand.
yeah,
9 o'clock.
Even my family, they're just like, oh, like my family doesn't even like the posts that I put out or the information because they have no relevance to it. They're like,
tight.
I mean, no, for real. They're all like in Ohio and like doing their own thing and living lives and raising children. They don't give a shit
does
about
he
the comedy
mean,
community.
the annoying gatekeepers in Bushwick.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
We don't know what any of those words are.
What's a Bushwick? You know,
I mean, I have to look like the coolest 42-year-old ever to like
your family definitely. Your extended family thinks you're the coolest guy in the world.
Right? Yeah. Because,
You made
like,
it because you're in New York City. Being
I'm
a
in New York, and
comedian.
I'm talking about Bushwick.
But the rest of them are real
irony.
concerned.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're
I
like,
know,
is this
I
dude
know.
flipping out?
A couple of them have written me and been like, "Wow, you're like very vulgar or whatever." I'm like, "It's a joke."
Luckily, I set that precedence real early as a kid, so I never had to like. They're all, oh, that's just Jericho being fucking Jericho.
Right.
Dude, one time my mom tried to. I said, "What the?" I go. I think my mom. I go, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And my mom's a bad bitch. We've talked about this. Anyone that knows me knows. My mom goes, "Oh, excuse me," and I go, "You can't talk to me that way. I'm 13 or whatever." And she goes, "Oh, okay," and literally put a bar of soap in my mouth.
Yeah.
and like I was 5 inches taller than she was at least, you know, like, and she put a bar of soap in my mouth, and I fucking trying to be tough, bit it in half and spit it at her. She was like, "Oh yeah, real smart," and she took the glass of water away. Okay, and I was in so much pain. There was soap all in my teeth, and the back of my
Jesus.
throat. The shit was burning.
I'm lucky I never had to do that. My mom was never to that degree.
I was a pretty wild kid.
I mean, I learned after a couple of backhands. I think like what my limits were. I still flinch if my mom were to do like this
yeah.
one to me. I was like,
Me
all
too.
right, yeah,
Oh,
I'll
$2
go.
grand in me.
Yeah,
Tight. Very successful.
I had my
Yeah.
grandma too, who was real quick with to throw a fucking sandal or a coffee cup at you.
Oh.
Like she's one of those. Like, you know, that's like,
The flying
"Bah!"
sandal.
And you're like, what the? How'd you even hit me?
my grandmas were always very nice. My grandpa would hit me with his cane.
That's funny.
Yeah,
Both my
It was
grandmas
real
were
funny.
mean as fuck.
Real funny.
I think that shit's hilarious.
We used to have like a rotary phone.
Yeah.
You know, in the basement, I'd make like calls on it and whatnot. Like, I'd call like whoever else. And this back when like they had itemized like phone bills.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
You
The
know what I
number
mean?
would show up on the bill. Yeah.
Yeah, and like my grandpa like taped it to his cane.
That's hilarious.
At least you know.
So you know, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Like
so fucking good.
Yeah,
there were so many things like, cause I'm that age of the like Jerky Boys. I was their target demo.
Right. Yeah.
So we
yeah.
were doing all sorts of crazy shit. And I remember that one, it was like 1-800, if you don't like my driving, the bumper sticker.
Yeah, 1-800 how's my driving?
Well, there was one.
1-800 eat shit.
And I called it, and it had oh, you don't like my driving? Well, fuck you. And I thought it was so funny, but it charged you like 75 cents, $1 every time you called. So I called it like 10 times, just going, he just told me to fuck off.
Oh man.
I was like, my little sister, I was like, Rachel, you got to hear this. Hey, fuck you. I got in so much trouble for that shit.
We had the generation of radio DJs that would
God,
call
that was
up
the
and
whole thing.
like now with like
Oh, I've done 2 of those for one of the companies. I won't say which, that does like fake calls, and it's like somebody gets caught cheating or whatever else.
Right.
And I've played a couple characters. I haven't done it in years. They might have gone out of business, but they outsourced it for like a major like radio, like shock type thing. And they, I would just like play somebody who either like got caught cheating or caught his wife cheating or some bullshit like that.
oh, so they like faked them?
Not only do they fake it,
Oh,
but you have to be in character once you're on, like, there's a pre-producer that talks to you, and they're like, once you're on the phone with the host of the show, you're in character. It doesn't matter if it sounds like they're talking to you about what you'll be doing later, whatever it is. With them, you always stay in character. I think probably so they have plausible deniability. Like, as far as they know, you're totally this character.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, I'm like, wow, that's some great acting on their behalf. It's like a bullshit.
It's method.
Right, they don't know. They're being Truman Showed by their own producers.
So funny.
The producer's like, we got a real hot one on the line. Like, really? Sick. Somehow I keep winning with these.
Hey, that last guy sounded like a guy from an IKEA commercial. That's weird.
I used to prank call all the fucking time. Like, because it was like so funny, but then I realized we weren't even saying nothing.
It was
was
just funny to do it as a
It was like the
child.
excitement.
The worst though was when that Simpsons episode came out where they kept
they kept
there
calling
was
Bart.
like a
Where
compilation
where Bart called Mose.
Yeah, he always called Mose, but this is like
Seymour Butts.
before YouTube, where somebody like they had made a compilation at the end of an episode or something like that.
Yeah.
And like we just like memorized them all.
course. Ivana Tinkle.
The Seymour Butts. We used to do Mike Hunt.
Amanda Huggin Kiss.
Yeah. I'm looking for Amanda Huggin. Oh, classic. Classic
So
stuff.
good.
These are the best.
One time it was probably like a neighbor who was a kid that was like I was probably friends with. I hardly remember this, but I remember we got in trouble because the cops came to my friend's house.
After a prank? What did you, swat somebody?
No, we ordered a bunch of pizzas.
That's not a prank call anymore.
We ordered a bunch of pizzas to their house, you know? And then they didn't
That's
have it. And then,
classic.
like, the next day, a cop came knocking on the door, and my friend wasn't allowed to hang out with me anymore.
Wow.
Whoa.
My friend's parents were like, that Jericho's a bad kid.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, we made a prank phone call. Nothing actually happened. Even as a kid, I was like, but I want to play Nintendo.
So savage.
As a fat kid, I would love it if somebody would be like, hey, somebody ordered these pizzas and came to your address. I'm like, I didn't do it. I promise I didn't do it. You can check my phone records, but I'll take these fucking pizzas.
Yeah, what are you going to do with those?
Yeah, what are you going to do with those? You know?
I think they like take them back to the shack.
And then, they
they
all just
do.
eat
You're
'em.
screwing
The
over
boys
the
just eat 'em.
The
driver.
place, yeah.
You're screwing over the driver more than anybody, which, like, you don't realize that when you're a kid.
Yeah, when you're a
Yeah.
kid, you're dumb. You're like, I remember this was a long time ago. I mean, this was like in the early 90s. And there was I was just being a ruffian kid running around, skip school, like just causing trouble. And there was a car window was down and there was a cell phone in there. Right? It was one of those big brick ones.
Oh, yeah.
And I literally used it just to make a bunch of prank phone calls. Like, they'll never catch me now.
Yeah, that's like the benefit of stealing a phone when you're a kid. Is like, I can call whoever I want now.
But literally, I made like 4 crank phone calls, and I was by myself, and I was like, this isn't as fun when you're by yourself and you're not making your friends laugh.
We had this, we rented this apartment when I was in college. It was like my first off-campus apartment. The guy who rented it to us was this old crotchety professor who was like head of the honors college. And he said like fucked up shit when we went to his house to sign the lease. He was like, you know, they have too many coloreds on the basketball team this year.
Whoa.
And I was like,
Wow.
what the fuck was this guy saying?
Was
And
he
he-
joking?
No.
I'm just kidding.
And so
Definitely
I just
not.
want to make sure it was.
That's hilarious. I'm like, also, he was a comedian and
Yeah.
he was quoting someone else.
Was this a
like taking it out of context.
was this a white guy?
Yeah, so we get to his house and when we're set up, like I realized there's like a phone jack in the wall and someone had like an old school phone. And so we plugged it in and it worked. And the phone was like in his name. So I called like 900 numbers and I'd be like, tell me a story. And it'd be like 1-800-fuck my ass, you know? And I'd be like, tell me a story. And they'd be like, yo, you realize this costs money, right? And I'd be like, yeah. So tell me a cool story.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, we were just drumming up the bill. He was fucking losing his mind.
Oh yeah, I mean, how does somebody figure something like that out? I mean, I know that they'll see a spike in their fucking phone bill or whatever,
Right.
but I wonder if he had a previously existing phone bill and then it went up, or it's like all of a sudden a new bill showed up and they're like,
just 900 numbers.
yeah, like, hey, wait a minute.
I've never had a phone bill account that wasn't a cell phone.
Well, that's
Oh,
something to think
I've
about,
had-
yeah.
yeah.
I had a landline.
I had a
I've had
landline.
landlines, but like I don't think I've had the account. I don't think I had any landlines in college. Yeah, it's.
Did you get in trouble for that?
Oh, yeah, dude. So
Did he
like,
caught you?
yeah, so I got, not for that prank.
Oh, okay.
He was like flipping out, and I think it was on the previous month's bill or something.
Oh yeah,
But because I think it itemized it and was like, you called like 900 numbers or something.
That's I got caught ordering pay-per-view. I ordered Striptease with Demi Moore.
oh yeah, great
Classic.
movie.
And
Yeah.
I was a little kid. I was trying to jack off. And there's the scenes to jack off in that movie are only so long. And when you're on pay-per-view, you couldn't rewind it. So you're
Yeah.
like, fuck, I missed it. I was like, fuck it, I'm going to order again. I'm never going to get caught. And my dad didn't fuck around. He's like, if you're going to order fucking porno, order porno. What the fuck is Striptease? He's like, by the way, you owe me $12.
That's why you gotta watch
Which
it do
was
the
like
scrambles.
$1,000 back
When
then.
you're a kid,
Yeah.
oh my God, it like broke the bank.
But you
like,
know what?
wow.
It kind of makes the whole striptease watching experience more realistic, right?
It was all just a big tease.
That's true.
You have 12 ones.
Virtual dollar bills are taken through your
Oh
phone
my
line.
12's a lot now
Yeah.
for me. Still, actually. So, I had a cousin who she's a kid. When I was a kid, there's a 1-800 number you could call Will Smith, right? Like they've always had like these 1-800
It's like a
numbers
talk
geared towards
box or something.
Yeah, I mean, you call them up, and I guess I never could. I never even bothered trying because like I knew like, it's like $1 a minute, and that is when you're 8-9 years old, you're like, man, if I'm on the phone for any more than like 2 minutes, where am I going to come up with $2? Or whatever.
I'm gonna have to do 2 lawns.
That sounds crazy. Why is Will Smith agreeing to that shit? Do you think he had anything to do with it?
Yeah.
I'm sure
He did
made
the
some
advertisement for the. I used to watch Saturday. So
It's a real thing. He advertised that you could call and talk to him.
yeah, listen.
It
This
was a
is
pre-recorded message.
yeah, it's a
Well, I
pre-recorded
get- I
message.
get-
No.
I get that. It just seems like kind of grifting for Will Smith. Like he's on a hit show. He really needs to sell.
No. This is
It's
this
free.
is the 80s. No, this is old as shit.
Okay, this is. I'm in Russia at this moment.
Okay, all right.
Things were
So-
If I'm born.
So this is like 89, 90. This is like before.
Oh yeah, I'm in Russia.
This is like I think a little bit before like Will Smith, like before Fresh Prince, or right around the start of it. He was just a rapper.
This is pre-fall of Berlin Wall. Will Smith.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there, yeah. And it was him and Jazzy Jeff, and I remember him distinctly. He's like, "Oh, you can call me and Jazzy Jeff on the telephone." And it was advertised during Saturday morning cartoons and stuff. And you call and hear a pre-recorded message.
Yeah.
And I'm sure like there was I'm sure Will Smith's an ethical person who probably wouldn't want to know about like kid. They probably just want it. It's probably just a thing. It's like, well, here's a pre-recorded message. Let's hang up the phone. I hope it wasn't something where he was like fishing for idiots and
Yeah.
then let somebody stay on the line for like 45 minutes running up their phone bill.
Yeah.
Or unless it was like a rich
I'll
kid.
be right back.
Yeah. Or it's Will Smith. I gotta take a shit. I'll be. Hold on a second.
Make
Then
it sound like you put the phone down.
Yeah. He set the phone on top of the receiver like you would back in the day.
Just play shitting sounds for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like,
God,
Will
that is
Smith,
so
are you coming back?
Now, okay, so now this is I remember real racism from this time because
I remember. Real
no.
racism.
Here's the thing: is like I'm watching this Will Smith commercial, and my uncle was living with my grandma. I would stay with my grandma on the weekends because my dad had custody, but he was either in jail or like missing. And so that my grandma would take me on. And so while I'm staying with my grandma, my uncle comes home from prison. He's upstairs, jobless, strung out or whatever. So he's there too. So I'm just trying to watch Saturday morning cartoons in peace in the basement. He'll come downstairs and I'm like listening to Will Smith, like watching the commercial, vibing, as a 9-10-year-old kid would do. And he'd look at me like rap music. He's like, I hope you don't listen to that shit or whatever, He's like, that's some boop shit, you know what I mean? And I'm just sitting there, even as a kid, and I'm like, Will Smith's telling me to invest in Microsoft. You're upstairs dying of heroin. How is Will Smith the worst person because he's black? This doesn't make sense at all.
Will Smith is such a better role model than your
Right,
Uncle
Will Smith
Terry.
has had more impactful, like more better impact on my life than fucking my uncle ever did. Right, my uncle is just, or my dad for that matter. I like Uncle.
One day your uncle's grave will say, "Not Will Smith."
No, he's dead. He's been dead for a while. He's in a can somewhere.
He doesn't have a gravestone.
But like, yeah.
Oh
So it's like Uncle Phil did more for me than Uncle Craig ever did, and
R.I.P. both of them.
Yeah. I miss Uncle Phil a lot more than my Uncle Craig. But anyways. So yeah, that's what the Will Smith like fucking memory was for me.
Yeah,
it was
like
like
the 800.
Well, we were just breaking down, like I mean, MTV was new, relatively new. It was still like good. Like we had such like a cultural shift and everything like that, And I think MTV even had their own like prank phone call show.
Oh yeah,
at some
I'm
point
sure.
like that.
I'm sure, yeah.
That
Right.
sounds familiar.
Roy Wood Jr. got very famous in Alabama. I mean, relative to Alabama. Because he had one of those things. He would call somebody up and be like, prank them however. Like, oh, you won the lotto.
man,
I still do the shit. I've recorded a few recent ones that are fucking... Dude, we did some phenomenal ones. Like, before the pandemic, a couple years ago, my buddy, he would come over. He's a singer of this band, Parquet Courts. And so he would come over to my house, and we would, like... come up with fucking ideas for like who to prank. So we pranked like Cantina Royal one time, which was a venue.
Venue they had the show at?
Yeah, the show at. The owner was like a maniac cokehead, and he was just crazy, and he was always scheming on something. And so we like called him up, and Andrew, my friend, pretends to be like this handler for celebrities, and he's like, listen, I'm with Donald Trump Jr. We just got off the tarmac at JFK. I'm going to need to come through there. I need to commandeer the club. We've got endless amounts of money. We've got Shia LaBeouf in tow. He was like telling him all this shit.
That's hilarious.
And he got super horny. He's like, we're going to need at least $5,000 worth of wine. And then he was like, I'm going to need to use the kitchen. We have a chef coming with us. And he was like, I just closed the kitchen down. And he goes, all right, do you want this money or not? It's Donald Trump Jr. Come on. It's the president's son. We're like getting him riled up. We prank called a bar in Greenpoint one night and pretended that there was a vampire convention in town and that someone said the after party was at the bar. And then one after the other, me, my wife, and Andrew like call like with a few minutes in between, and we're like, hey, yeah, I'm just calling about the Vampire Con party. Like, what time does that go till? I'm like, fucking, we kept the guy on the phone
until
forever.
dawn.
We were like using vampire lingo. We were like calling people lifestylers. We were like, I hope it's not a bunch of fucking lifestylers. You know what I mean? And the guy's like, no, I don't know what you mean. We're like, lifestylers are people who pretend to be vampires, but they're not actually vampires.
Wait, you're kidding? They're not actually vampires?
We were recording. I was in a band and we were working on a record, and we were sleeping in the studio. They had bedrooms and stuff. We just were at the studio the whole time, and we were drinking and hanging out. And one of the guys in the band got so hammered, it was like he was on another planet.
Yeah.
And he decided to prank call places in Tucson. And he got this one hotel, and he went so hard, but the guy was kept responding. So it went on for like 40 minutes. He's like, "Sir, this is a boutique hotel." He's like, "Hey, this is Joey Burns." Who, like, you guys don't know who Joey Burns is? It was like a Tucson guy. He's in that band Calexico. He's like, but he was like, "This is Joey Burns. I'm coming in hot. I got 12 dirty Frenchmen with me, and we need 12 beds because I cannot stay in a room with a Frenchman." And the guy's like, okay. He's like, "Well, let me see. I don't think I have 12 beds. Let me see. I do have 12 beds, but they're double rooms." So I was like, "Are you a genius or an idiot?" To my friend, he's like, "Are you the stupidest person I know or the smartest?" Because you kept that guy on the phone for easily 40 minutes.
That's the art of the prank, though. It's like keeping them on forever and slipping in like hot jokes as you go along.
You know where that works now is I haven't prank called anybody in a while, but when I get like spam calls, I'll do that all the time where I'll just fuck with them. And recently I made an order on Wayfair, and I get a phone call like not long after from somebody claiming to be from like Wayfair Professional. They had a ton of my personal info, and slowly I basically corrected it all to give them like the wrong info. I gave them the wrong email. I'm like, no, that address. The address I totally gave him an address of a different Wayfair in like New Jersey. Because I asked the guy where he was. He said he had like a very thick Indian accent, but his name was Steve Jones. And he
As
was,
most Indian people are.
Right. So he's also like breathing super heavy. And when I ask him a question that's like direct of like, where on your website can I read about this program or whatever, he like starts breathing heavy, talks to somebody behind him, like says he's got to go, comes back. So I keep him on the phone for like I think 25 minutes or so, over 25 minutes. I like started asking. I'm like, "Where did you used to work?" He's like, "They don't exist as a company anymore." And then I ask him again, and he says like Radisson Hotels or something. And I'm like, "Oh, did it close down? I thought you said they don't exist as a company." So he's like going on and on. Eventually, he's like, "Okay, I have to go, and I have to go. Please, I have to go." I'm like, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm very lonely. Like, please don't go.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, got another 5 minutes or so out of him. I'm like, I will hurt myself if you hang up this phone. Finally, like, he managed it. It was literally like 25, 27 minutes. And then I get an email a few minutes later, "Welcome to Wayfair Professional." And it came from Wayfair. And it was the same guy. And it was Wayfair. I put it on speakerphone. My wife was listening too. Like, we were like, "No way, this is actually Wayfair." It was the crazy. He was breathing so heavy, and he couldn't answer basic questions.
God.
And
I'm
I'm
like trying to pump one out, and you're like, "Why are you
Yeah.
heavily breathing?"
So I get another phone call from Wayfair. This is like probably a few days ago only now. And they're like, "I understand you had a phone call with Steve Jones, and it didn't go well. He didn't finish your sign-on process. What was the problem?" I was like, "Do you record your phone calls?" She's like, "Yes." I'm like, "Go listen to that phone call." I'll be honest with you. I straight up abused your employee for 25 minutes because I 100% believed this was a spam call because it was so fucking ridiculous. She's like, "I'm sorry." She like finished like some of the sign up process and shit. And she's like, "Yeah, we've gotten issues with our training and we've had to do this a lot because people do assume that it's spam calls and stuff." But it was so bad that I was like, I told the guy I was going to kill myself if he hung up. I was fucking with him so bad.
Poor Steve Jones.
So hard.
Steve Jones, he's like, "Yeah, I mean, I have an accent, but I grew up in South Carolina." Like, what do you? I was like, "Man, this guy almost killed himself." Maybe he feels really good. He's like, "I saved this dude's life."
Dude, I even told her, I was like, "Listen, I'll be honest, like, he had a thick Indian accent. His name was Steve Jones, and that on its own should not disqualify him. But it was so many other red flags that you got to understand. You get a lot of phone calls and you assume."
She's
like, "Yeah, I understand. Oh my God. But the fact that he humored me after I'd like really like made a bunch of personal comments and like just asked all this personal shit from him, it was insane.
That's nuts.
But it was really a Wayfair employee.
I wish you could prank text. I tried it, but everybody's like, "Derek, we know it's you."
Yeah, right. There's
You know, because they see my number. I wish you, because that would be so much more
Get a
Fun.
get a Google
Yeah.
number.
Or you fuck with
That's
like
how you do it?
Yeah.
Oh,
you fuck
okay.
with like the sex bots. You could do that.
I
That's
try to.
kinda
I
funny.
always. I go. Man, I really wish you weren't a robot. It's like, oh, but I'm not. I was like, oh, how'd you find me? It's like, I just found you. I like big boys. This all. I really
Yeah.
had a text thing with this. Like, oh yeah, and then they really messed up a text, and I was like, oh, English isn't your first language. What is? And it was like this like blonde-haired, blue-eyed white lady in the picture. And she was like, what do they speak in Nigeria? Yuba? Ureba.
Isn't it?
It's with a Y. I don't know how to say it. Yeah.
Ureba?
Ureba. That language. It's like Yarbi, I think is how they spell it. Whatever. But it's like that. And I was like, you don't look Nigerian. And then it was like, that was the end of the conversation. I was just like, I was trying to sexy talk with this robot, but it was just a Nigerian hacker. Did you ever catch any shit for these prank phone calls?
How did this guy make you? Did he make you pay for it?
Um,
He tack it onto the rent?
no,
Small
the
claims
dude,
court?
that wasn't even the one I was gonna tell though.
Oh,
the real crazy
let's get
story
the
is
juice.
this. So like, when I was in college, I was just prank calling after school with my friends, like in their dorm room. And I would fucking prank wherever, like a salon, and talk about like getting like my like super hairy back waxed or something. I'd call someone like selling like a fucking 92 Ford Explorer or whatever, and I would like be like, "Listen, my man, I want that fucking car. I can't live without my 92s. Double the fucking price. Put it on hold for me. I'm coming through." And then I'd like rile them up. I would call people looking for bandmates and shit, but I graduated onto a level where like I would just we like built I knew an electric engineer student, so he built like a wire that went from the phone to the computer so we could record my calls.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was like that.
Well, you got deep. You were going to put out your own album.
Yeah, I literally was. I was like fucking killing it. I was getting better and better at keeping people on the phone, doing repeats where like the like issue wouldn't be resolved. I was pretending I was the Office of Information Technology and accusing people of watching too much porn and being like, and people would bug out. And so then I started just cold calling numbers because we had a closed phone system at our school where you could just dial 6 and then 4 numbers. And there was no caller ID on that. So I would just call people based on what time it was. So anyways, I start doing that, and then I figure out the call box system at the school. So I could call a call box, one of those random boxes that you would like call for help or call someone. So I figured out the whole map of the entire campus. So I could just fucking call and look out my window and be like, "What's up, kid with the fucking green shirt? You're a pussy." And they'd be like, "Fuck you. Fuck you."
I love that you had this whole criminal fucking mastermind, and they're like, "Yeah, your green shirt, you look like a pussy." That's the best joke you could.
It was so fucking good, dude. And so basically, like, I one time got like they had lobsters at the dining common one day of the year when like parents were coming to school to be like, "Oh, I'm getting a lot for my money for my kids." And we put like a lobster on the call box, and then as people would walk by, I would be like calling, and I'd be like, "I'm a lobster," and people would be like, "Ah," because they just see a fucking lobster, you know,
talking
like,
to him.
Yeah. So, anyways, I wind up calling this number.
Yo, by the way, real quick, if I was a parent and I came to the school and they're serving lobster, I'd be like, "I'm fucking paying you money to serve my idiot son lobster."
Yeah.
Fucking throw those lobsters in the garbage and buy these kids books for kids' sake.
Yeah, why do we have to pay for textbooks?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, I call this number, and I'm like fucking with the people who live there. And then I just remembered that number in my head. And then every time I call a call box, like a bunch of people would conglomerate around it and be like, "How did you do this? I want to do this." And I'd be like, "Yo, all you have to do is pick up any phone on campus and dial this number." And I gave a random room number, right?
Oh,
So,
no.
dude,
Oh, no.
People spread it around UMass Amherst campus fucking hog wild, and everyone is dialing these people's number.
Oh,
I'd be like,
no.
"What's up, call box, you fuck face?" And they're like, "This is a room, god damn it." So one day I'm in my room and I like call that number, and I'm like, they pick up and I'm like, "Hey, any messages for me?" As they're getting
You're
called,
right.
and they're like, "Fuck you, man!" And I hang up, and then I call them back later, and they got a tap on like their phone. Yeah, and then they like found out it was coming from my room, but they didn't have any calls before that from my room. So they couldn't like prove it, but they heard my voice like when I called.
But you could just be one of the people that were like given this number by
Yeah,
everybody.
exactly. So then all of a sudden, like an hour later, I hear like a knock on my door, and I'm like partying with my friends. We're like smoking weed in our dorm room, fucking everything. Like all types of crazy shit is going on in there. It's a Saturday night.
Right.
And one of my friends looks through the eye hole, and there's like a whole thing like, "Don't open the door for anyone you don't know." And this idiot is like drunk, and he's like, "I can't see anybody," and he opens the door,
Oh, no.
and it's the fucking cops, and they like bum rush the room, and they're like,
Wow.
"All right, who lives here?" And then I'm like mangled, and they're in my face in like undercover uniforms. One's in the state police uniform because they had state police at our school because it was a state school.
Right. Oh,
And so they're like trying to intimidate me, and I just deny everything. I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." But the best part is, they were like, "Yeah, he's right. It couldn't have been him. It was a white dude's voice." And they're like, start looking for my roommate. And then they fucking pin my roommate. He's like, "I have nothing to do with this. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about."
And then you'd be like, "My name's Steve Jones."
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was so good. But I just completely fucking stonewalled them. And they were like, "We come here again, we're taking you out in shackles. You hear me, my man?" And like jabbed their fingers into my chest.
Oh, love that
yeah.
move.
They love that.
Love
And,
that
like,
fucking
they
move.
took off. Like the guy spit like a loogie on the floor on his way out. Yeah.
Oh,
For
great.
dramatic
Christ.
effect. I was like, "Okay, that's disgusting."
Yeah. That sounds more like embittered class warfare than it does like trying to actually do something right by the world. They didn't give a fuck about the victim and all this. They just want to flex their power.
Did the people whose room it was ever figure out it was you?
No, I don't think so.
Did they ever
But
try
I
to
think
fuck
it
with
ruined
you?
their life because literally they like either couldn't have a phone anymore, they had to like take it off the hook, or like I feel bad for them.
Dude, that's
Not
so
that bad.
funny.
It'd be funny if fucking one of them was listening to this.
Dude, I have a
Oh, fuck
They're
him.
like, "That was us."
If you are. Oh, never mind.
if you are, we're gonna give him all his info at the end. You can hit him up. I had a friend. I had a friend who he just told me the story. It cracked me up. He bought a TV of a guy off Craigslist, right? And the TV didn't have a remote. Like the remote was in the box. So he called him up. He's like, "Hey Ryan, where's my remote?" And he just kept that number. So like every 6 months, he would call and be like, "What's up, Ryan? How you doing?" He'd be like, "Well, what's this? Where's my fucking remote?" he's like, "I don't have that." He's like, "I haven't had that TV for like 4 years. I still call him. And now it's just like, 'Hey Ryan, you okay? I just want to check on you. I haven't heard from you in a few
Just
months.'"
want to make sure you're living good.
And I guess he's just a dude. He's like a meek little dude that's just like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that. I can
Just
Poor
do
fella.
that forever. Give his number to your children. Make sure they get his children's number.
Did I ever tell you like one of the best pranks that was ever pulled on me was done by I don't even want to say dating. I was sleeping with this girl who was a fucking lunatic. She's like a poet, a crazy person, but she was fucking, the sex was rad.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I did it, even though I knew it was going to be trouble. I did it for like a year. Right? She even came into my job one time all drunk, had a glass of wine, threw it on some girl that was a customer that I'd never seen before.
Oh my
Threw a
God.
glass of wine on her and was like, "Who's this bitch? You're fucking."
Jesus Christ.
And I
I love it.
I kept doing it because the sex was so good. The sex was so good, I wanted to be like, "Who hurt you?" You know, when
Right,
sex
yeah.
is that good, you're like, "You were abused."
It's always nutters though. They always have to be
Always.
like full blown intense.
So finally one day it got bad. She started showing up at my house, and I was like, "I can't." Finally, I was like, "You know what? I can't do. I'm sorry. We can't." I like broke up with her, right? Even though we weren't dating. I told her I couldn't do it anymore. All of a sudden, I start getting random dick pics on my phone like crazy. I'm getting dick pics. I was like, "What the fuck is this? Who are they? What?" And I found out she had put my number on like Grindr, and was like, send it, like, I love dick pics. Send me dick pics. You know what's even better than that? The same girl, all of a sudden, this was actually worse because my phone blew up. She put up on Craigslist that I had a free refrigerator that you just had to come pick it up that worked.
Oh, that's even worse.
Hundreds of phone calls and texts. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, this crazy bitch. And I was like, I got to give it to her. This is pretty good. She got me.
She got you.
She got me. I was like, that one, I was like, you start to hear, like, people like, hey, man, I could really, me and my family are kind of hard up and we need a new refrigerator. Like, you still have it? I'm like, oh.
I'm going to put out in, like, the St. Jude's network, like, free lungs or something like that for a child.
Oh my god!
It was pretty savage though. She got me like, I was like, that's pretty fucking clever. I had a thought in my head right now of like, you at like 65 years old, you know, you're on a rocking chair, your phone rings and it's like, call box, bitch. Like, I fucking found you.
Yeah.
It took me fucking 45 years.
I had to
but
listen
found you.
to this 30-year-old episode of Bushwick Bears podcast.
Yeah. All the bears themselves are dead.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be alive by then.
Oh, man. All right. Well, let's rate Sameer's crime. Jericho, why don't you go first?
All right. I'm going to give, you know what? Because you never got caught, I'm going to give a 5 out of 5. I love a good prank, and the fact that you're like the DB Cooper of prank phone calls. I made like 4 prank phone calls, and I got in trouble. So you definitely are winning the race.
I'm going to also give that a 5 out of 5 because you were so close to getting caught. And then racism saved you.
It really did.
Oh, man.
Oh my god, that's so true.
That is true. I can only also give this 5 out of 5 because, you know, if you were doing this at 40 years old, it would be sad. But that's like the right age to do that sort of thing. It was very effective. I like the call box aspect of it. I like sticking it to the cops. Clearly love the racism. And apparently by everybody's judgments against me and everything. Even though I challenge you to go back and listen to this podcast and
Please listen to every episode.
find
Rate,
one
review,
racist statement I've ever
subscribe, like, share with your friends.
made. Right. Yeah,
Comment,
yeah, yeah.
tons of comments.
Yeah.
Tons of comments.
In fact, you'll hear me be in the woke one for a lot of our. I'll have you know. Listen to our jaywalking episode. Very woke. Anyways. Anyways, 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. That's all the way
That's
from
another
from
perfect
woke
across
Derek.
the board preferred.
Woke Derek gives it a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Racist Derek also gives it a 5 out of 5.
That's funny joke, Derek.
To you.
I give it a 3 out of 5 because it wasn't a full crime because I didn't get caught.
Oh, I see.
No, that's the best kind of crime.
The best
Yeah,
kind
you're
of
right.
crime are the ones that you know where you
Humble.
don't get caught.
Yeah.
Very humble.
You
I like
got
the
caught,
humble.
but you got out of it. You're like the Thomas Crown of pranking.
That's so good.
Oh my God! This, you know, because one of the through lines of this episode is how old we are, you know, and that's the thing. No one under the age of fucking 35 has any clue what Thomas Crown is.
Oh yeah.
Thomas Crown Affair.
The
Like,
Thomas
Yeah.
Crown affair.
I was thinking more Catch Me If You Can. That's
Oh,
the,
yeah,
that's,
that's a
the
good one,
younger
too. That's a
generation.
better
That's why I
one.
said DB Cooper, but that was just in an episode of Loki that was on Disney Plus.
Oh yeah. That
So.
brought it back.
that dude ruled Frank Abagnale.
Was that DB Cooper's real
No,
name?
Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, Catch Me
Oh,
If You
yeah,
Can.
yeah.
Does he look like Leo DiCaprio?
No, I don't think so. I saw a
Nobody
picture of
does.
him.
We-
Yeah.
Of course
Yeah.
not.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. except
Well,
me.
dude, thank you so much for doing this. This
Yeah,
is
thanks
awesome.
for having me.
Tell the people where they can find you.
Find me on Instagram and Twitter at Sameermon, SAMEERMON.
Hell
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Also, you can catch Sameer guest co-hosting with Jericho on the 30th for our live show.
Hell yeah.
Killer.
Well, guest producing.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sameer's filling in for both Boris and I.
These dudes are going on vacation like adults.
Yeah.
But that's June 30th, The Stand, 9 p.m., right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sick. And we'll repeat that for the intro recording.
Bushwick.